Hello, everyone. Welcome to this new lesson in the course. In this lesson, we are going to create this nice image hover effect. You can see when I hover over the image, this effect happens where we have a gray background that comes from the bottom right corner until it covers the image. Then this text appears. We have a heading that comes from the top right side, a paragraph that comes from the bottom left side, and a link that comes from the bottom. We will learn how to create all of this, so let's first start by creating the layout of this example. I will start in my HTML and I will add a div, give it a class of container, then inside it I will add an image, so this will be our image. Then below it I will add another div, give it a class of caption, so this will be the div that contains all the other elements. And inside it, I will add an h2 and say image hover. Then below that, I will add a paragraph and add some demo text. Then finally, I will add an anchor tag and say read more. All right, let's go to our CSS to make these elements look the way we want. I will target the div with the class of container that has all the elements inside it, and I will add width, 450 pixels, height, 300 pixels, then position, relative, then I will target the image and add width, 100%. And now you can see the container now has a width of 450 pixels and a height of 300 pixels, and the image is contained within it. All right, let's continue working. We will create the overlay background using the before pseudo element of the container. So I will target that and add content, empty strings, position, absolute, top, 0, left, 0, width, 100%, height, 100%, background color, this gray color, opacity, 0.8. And finally, transition, all, 0.25 seconds. And now you can see the gray background now has the same width and height as the container, and it's covering it up. But if you remember, this gray background doesn't appear until we hover over the image, and it appears from the bottom right corner, and it was also rotated by 45 degrees. So let's change its position and rotate it. I will go back here and add transform, translate, 550 pixels on the x-axis, and 300 pixels on the y-axis. So now you can see the gray background is sitting in this new position. All right, let's also rotate it by 45 degrees. I will go back here and add rotate, 45 degrees. Now it's rotated. And finally, when hovering, we want it to move over the image and cover it up completely. So I will go back here and on hovering over the div with the class of container, I will make changes happen to the before pseudo element, which is the gray background. I will add transform, translate, negative 50 pixels on the x-axis, and negative 150 pixels on the y-axis. Then we want to keep it rotated, so I will also add rotate, 45 degrees. And now, when I go back and hover over the container div, you can see the gray background moves towards the image, but it doesn't cover it up completely. It covers only a small part of it, so we need to increase its width and its height so that it will cover it up completely. So I will go back and change the width to 120% and the height to 205%. And now the gray background is much bigger, and when I hover over the image, you can see the gray background comes in and covers it up completely, giving us the effect we want. Alright, now let's work on the caption and style it. I will target the div with the class of caption. Then I will add position, absolute, top, 0, left, 0 as well, then width, 100%, and height, 100% as well. Then I will add a red temporary background color. And now you can see the caption is sitting on top of the container div because we set its position property to absolute. So it's positioned relative to the container div that has a relative position property. And it also has the same width and height as the container div because we set its width and height to 100%. Alright, now we want to give the caption the layout of our demo. We want the H2 at the top, then the paragraph in the center, and the link at the bottom, and all of them to be centered and have proper spacing between them. We can do that using Flexbox. So let's go here and add Display, Flex. Then, to align the elements above each other vertically, we will add Flex Direction, Column. Then, to separate them, we will add Justify Content, Space Around, then Color, White, and Text Transform, uppercase. So now you can see the elements in the caption div are sitting one above the other and have some space between them. Let's keep going. I will target the H2. Then to center it, I will add Text Align, Center, then Font Size, 17 pixels, Padding, 20 pixels, Margin Top, 20 pixels, and finally, background color, RGB, 0, 0, 0, and 0.8. And now you can see the H2 is sitting in this position at the top of the container div. Alright, if you remember, when hovering over the image, the H2 would move from the top right corner and come into this position. So let's go back and do that. I will go here and add Transform, Translate, 200 pixels on the x-axis, so it moves 200 pixels to the right, and negative 200 pixels on the y-axis, so it moves 200 pixels towards the top. Then I will add Transition, All, 0.25 seconds. Then, when hovering over the container div, we want the H2 to move back to its original position. So I will say Container Hover, H2, and I will add Transform, Translate, 0, and 0. And now you can see the H2 element is sitting on top of the container div on its top right corner. And when we hover over the container, it returns back to its original position. All right, let's work on the paragraph. I will target it, then add font size, 16 pixels, width, 80% of the container width, and to align it in the center, I will add align self, center, then text align, center to center the text, and finally transition, all, 0.25 seconds. And now you can see the text is centered inside the container div and is taking up 80% of its width. And in our effect, the text comes in from the bottom left corner. So let's go back and do that. I will go back and add transform, translate, negative 200 pixels on the x-axis, so it will be shifted to the left by 200 pixels, and 200 pixels on the y-axis, so it will be shifted 200 pixels toward the bottom. Then I will go down here, and when hovering over the container, I will make some changes happen to the paragraph. I will add transform, translate, 0 and 0. And now the paragraph is sitting on the bottom left side, and when we hover over the container, it goes back to its original position. All right, now what's left is the button or the link. So let's style it. I will target it, then add text decoration, none, background color, black, color, white, width, 100 pixels, then padding, 15 pixels, margin bottom, 20 pixels. Then again, to center it horizontally, I will add align self, center. Then finally transition, all, 0.25 seconds. And now you can see the button looks exactly the way we want, and it's sitting on the bottom. All right, we know that the button comes in from the bottom when hovering over the container div, so let's position it at the bottom. I will go back here and add transform, translate Y, 100 pixels. Then, when hovering over the container, I will make some changes happen to the link. I will add transform, translate Y, 0 again, so it returns to its position, and now, when I go back, you can see the button is sitting 100 pixels below the container div, and when I hover over it, the button returns to its original position. Now, we have one thing left, and that is to hide all of these elements so they appear only when hovering. I will go back inside the container div, and I will add overflow, hidden. And now you can see all of them disappear, and when hovering over our container div, they appear again, and our effect happens. But you can see when hovering, all of them appear immediately, at the same time. It would be nice if we have some transition delays, so we want the overlay background to appear immediately with no delay. Then, after that, we want the H2 to appear, then the paragraph, and finally the link at the bottom. So let's go back and add that. I will go here and add transition delay, 0.3 seconds. So that means when I hover over the container, the H2 will wait 0.3 seconds. So it will appear after the background is completely visible. Then I will go here and add transition delay, 0.4 seconds this time, so that the paragraph appears slightly after the H2. Then finally here, and add transition delay, 0.5 seconds. So the link will appear after 0.5 seconds of hovering over the container div. And now, when I go back and hover over the image, you can see the background appears immediately. And then, after that, all three elements appear, one after the other, with a very slight difference in time. And when hovering away, they all disappear immediately at the same time. They don't wait because the transition delay property is applied when hovering only. So the delay happens when we hover, and it doesn't happen when we hover away. That's why all of the elements disappear immediately. And by doing that, we have finished this effect, and in the next few lessons we will see more effects like these in this example. So, see you in the next lesson.